So this is really exciting. Then that means that we're going to have student presentations. As you notice, of course, week 9 of your syllabus that I know you guys all consult as I do. And student presentations, what I'm looking for you to do is look up the one life of one artist that you can present. And choose one moment of artistic activity that artist represents in their life or in their work, and tell us about it. Your presentation should be 15 minutes long, for example. It would be great if you had a handout involved. So an example would be, I chose to do Van Gogh. And he represents the power of inspiration, the force of inspiration. And so his life was, he was born on this day, he lived here. Oh, I made a slideshow of 3 or 4 of his paintings. This is his most famous one. You look at how he sees the world, isn't it unique? Well, that's because his inspiration was so strong. He wrote about it here, and he said that it meant this. Then he cut off his ear because he was so frustrated with he couldn't present what was inside of him. He was a perfectionist that talks about idealism. In the end, he remains one of the great painters of all time. Thank you so much. 15 minutes. Yep.
So can it be, does it have to be like music, art? Can it be like an author? Can it...
Anyone who did anything. Could be a bridge builder. Could be a construction guy. Yep, could be an author. Exactly. So obviously I know that your time is limited here and that you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I would say take 1 hour, use Google, and in 1 hour you're done. We're not looking for, I'm looking for the process is you identifying an moment of artistic activity, identifying an artist and getting to know a little bit of their life, and being able to put those pieces together yourself. So that process of putting together a real artist that I've chosen, a moment of artistic activity, and then if you could put those 2 things together and talk to us about them, you'll have learned a lot. And you'll learn something about an artist's life.
So this is due in week 10?
No, it's due like tomorrow.
Oh.
We have a class today.
Okay.
We have a class tonight and whatever. Then we'll have a class tomorrow. We'll have a class tomorrow night. Then we have a class Thursday. And class Thursday night. So if you want more time, we could put Philosophy of Art off until Thursday. And then have 2 Philosophy of Art classes on Thursday.
So we're going to spend one class completely doing presentations?
Yep.
Okay.
As is on the syllabus.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because you could do like one person one day and then another the other day. But
yeah, we'll just do one class. So why don't we do Thursday's class at 2 o'clock? Because that's going to be kind of a rough class anyway. Right before we leave for CU Boulder. And that'll give you guys time. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So 15 minutes. I want the elements that you want to include. You want to include biography of the artist. You want to include examples of the artist's work. If it's an author, you could read us a passage, or even better, photocopy it so we could read it together. I'd like there to be some sort of visual handout, either pictures on the thing that counts or printed off copy, but something where you're not just telling us because everyone goes brain dead. As you're like, Mozart wrote 17 sonatas and nobody knows what a sonata is. So you need to do it.
You just crushed my idea.
So artist's life, some sort of visual handout, example of the artist's work, and then an analysis of where a moment of artistic activity is exemplified or typified in their life or in their work. Okay, what will you be graded on? You'll be graded on the quality, the effort you put into it. So if you just treat it like a joke, I don't appreciate that, and your grade will reflect. Remember, I failed 10% of my students when I was a high school teacher. 1 out of every 10 was failed. I don't mind giving bad grades. Secondly, you'll be graded on mostly is did you understand and did you actually look at our artistic freedom that we're talking about today, and did you actually see and make that connection? That's what you'll be graded on.
fail one of us, that's 33% of students that you fail.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I don't care. You get, it's not hard to pass. It's like I told my kids in high school, you have unlimited extra credit. Unlimited. You can get 300% in this class. So if you fail, all you have to do is go to me. I'll give you free 10 points on your test if you just read this article and give me a 3-point summary.
I know someone that switched out of his class in high school. Who's that?
Let us talk. So, in art here, our next phase, so I'd like to talk about this idea of freedom.
Actually, I mean, I guess.
Freedom in the arts. And the way I want to do this, I want to take a look at, first stage, your notions of freedom. Because we start with experience. Where in your lives you've experienced freedom, what freedom means to you, and then what freedom means to others, what freedom means in the world that we live. Then I want to take a look at freedom at its source, the sources of freedom. And to do that, we're going to look firstly in ethics at what freedom looks like, and then we're going to contrast it with what freedom looks like in art. And we're going to do this, remember, the sources of freedom, not from a descriptive point of view, but from an analysis. I want we to see objectively why those two are different. Okay? Green marker, I think, has just bit the dust. Thank you very much.
What's POA?
Well, like when I said, when I wrote this out,
Didn't hear you.
philosophy of art, artistic activity.
Okay, thanks.
So from now on, from henceforth for the rest of the class, POA equals philosophy of art, and for the rest of my life. It has been announced. Okay, so let's start by, so at the end of this class, what you'll have seen is that these notions of freedom, we're going to go back, the sources of freedom, this is called analysis. And the point of this is to be able to go back to these notions of freedom and analyze what kind of freedom it is. The goal being not to mix these two things. Because most of the time we get in trouble when we approach art with an ethical sense of freedom and when we approach ethics with an artistic sense of freedom. Cool? Mm-hmm. All right. Notions of freedom. So like freedom to speak in class, for example. What does that look like? What? How is that crushed?
By insults.
Exactly.
Sarcasm.
Put downs. Poor things. I'm so sorry.
No, you're not.
I actually am. It's just that students today, kids don't know how to be students. Back in the day when I was in high school, man, Jiminy Christmas. Okay, so let's focus. Notions of freedom. Talk to me. What does freedom mean? You're next. Get your answer.
I've heard lots about freedom lately, but I mean, when I was growing up, I always thought it's the ability to do what you want to do. I don't know if I completely agree with that now, but I would say it's a worldview.
It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can you describe that for me?
So it means that,
The ability to do what you want to do.
yeah, so if you feel like doing something, you shouldn't have something that inhibits you from doing that act.
Good.
Or saying what you want to say.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Other notions of freedom. 3. You're next. Get your answer.
Having the right to do what you ought. So, doing what you were created to do.
Just quote John Paul, why don't you?
So, what does that look like?
Doing what you were created to do without any barriers.
Very interesting. What are we created to do?
To love.
Do you seriously think that that's the case? Or are you just like making that up?
What?
Like how could you not be able to love?
By your own.
Like Romeo
Pride.
and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. Families don't allow them to love each other.
But
Okay.
they still
good
love
example.
each other.
Yeah. Huh?
I mean, they still love each
They didn't have the freedom to do so. They had to do it in secret.
So more so in
Yeah.
other. They
Very
kill
true.
themselves.
not necessarily
So love in
In-
terms of its
action.
implementation. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Very interesting. So if you have a love and you are in love with a person of the same gender, freedom would require you to be able to express that love, implement that love any way that you want.
No.
Why not?
Because sometimes what you think you want is not what you were designed for.
Okay. So this idea here is amazing because it seems like, Bree, this would mean that there's a limit. So this idea of without barriers, you almost have to add except the barriers that are already there.
Yeah, those are more so like guidelines to help you be more free in the pursuit of freedom, I guess.
So does this notion of freedom here, are there limits to the freedom?
Not limits to freedom, but limits to maybe your preconceived idea of freedom.
Okay. Let's challenge that a little bit, because if it's the right to do what you ought, this means that there's already some sort of norms involved.
Sure.
Okay? If there are norms involved, those norms come from the creative act that you come with. You have certain things that you may not do.
Yeah. To be
That's my question.
free.
So, okay, so you're saying the limits create freedom?
Certain limits
From limits.
to happiness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go here again, because this is the contradiction that we have to be able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying the limits actually create a freedom from limits. Because here you said it's the
Freedom.
right to do what you ought
Yes.
without barriers.
Yeah.
But
So
there
it's-
are barriers.
It's being disciplined in within, so like limitations, if you have a goal of being healthy, then you have limitations of what you can eat and what activities you need to do. But when you're disciplined, in that, then you are truly free in being healthy. But like those are limitations, but freedom comes in the discipline,
Okay.
I guess. of the
Because you're reaching your
goal.
goal. This is very interesting. So if I was going to be philosophical about it, I would say this is a teleological vision. You're going to hear that term from time to time if you actually open your ears to Catholic world. Every once in a while they'll talk about teleology. It comes from the Greek word telos. T-E-L-O-S, which means the end goal. The point that you're looking for, you're striving for, the end goal. So whenever you hear a teleological vision, it's a fancy way of saying it's a vision of freedom that assumes that it's directed towards an end goal. And this is the difference between what you just said, Vince, the ability to do what you want to do. What's the end goal? It's undefined.
Yeah, it's endless. Yeah.
You define the end goal.
Yeah.
And so since The end goal is undefined. This is actually part of the class if you want to write this stuff down. There's a lot of wisdom right here. Since the end goal is undefined, so too, I would say, a limitless freedom. Now, the interesting point to make with that, because that sounds very appealing. A limitless freedom. Yes, a limitless freedom. Have you guys ever read Dante's Inferno? Do you have it, Vince?
Yeah, it's right there next to the blue book. No, that's the other one. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
I'm going to read to you from his first ring of hell. You'll never forget this as long as you live. First ring of hell. If I could find where it says it in the chapter. Let's see. Map of hell. Okay, page 21. This is it. Could you quick Google for me what canto is the first ring of hell? I might be able to find it more easily.
You're talking about after the entry, right?
Yeah, just what canto equals the first ring of hell?
Circle 1, Canto 4.
Thank you. Nice job, buddy. I think they're crossing at Canto 4. And there he's at the gates, Canto 5.
He gets on that ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Francesca. Fourth chasm. Where's the bin ye hope all who enter here? Could you type in that? That's what we're gonna. Okay, so it might not work, but I really want to get you to this.
That Canto 3 it says.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Alright, let's just see.
I abandon all hope you enter your Canto 3. Over the lofty arch. I have the verse here.
Well, it's okay because at this point we've wasted to read it. We've lost that time. I just want to see. Just a second here. Well, the first region of hell for Dante is limitless freedom. And what it is it's people he sees, he gets into hell, ban ye hope all ye who enter here. And he goes through the gate, and then he sees these people who are running. And there's absolutely no boundary. It's just a big open field. And they're running. And they're running, and there's a guy who's got a banner. He's like, follow me, follow me. And they're all running after the banner. And if you try to stop, then hornets come and sting you. And so you have to keep running. But you're just running aimlessly in a circle for all eternity. And you can't stop running behind this banner without ever getting there.
It's a good vision of hell.
Yeah. Doesn't he consider that limbo?
Terrible.
Isn't that the limbo? Isn't that not the first
First
circle?
ring of hell.
Isn't that before the first circle? Maybe, I don't know.
I mean,
anyways, I didn't read it very well, so.
I read it 25 years ago, so. But in my opinion, that's the first ring of hell, because I remember being like, well, that's not so bad, and then thinking about it and saying,
Never ever getting there, just
Running.
pointlessly running.
running. Well, here, it's interesting because there you have an idea, limitless freedom. You could actually ask the question, is limitless freedom really free? Or, this is kind of the insight of John Paul II, doesn't limitless freedom actually make you a slave to itself? It's something to really, really ponder and to watch. There's so much wisdom in this class right now. There's so much you're getting out of this if you really think of it. Because when you watch people who say, you know, like, no church should ever be able to tell us what to do in the bedroom. Get the priest out of the bedroom. Okay? What you're saying is, on the one hand, it sounds very appealing. Therefore, we can do whatever the heck we want to do, and no one can tell me contrary. No government, no church. If a woman wants to kill a baby, then she should be allowed to kill a baby. She has the right of choice to destroy human life if she needs to, so that she can become the better person. Hillary Clinton, in the third debate, went and defended partial birth abortion based upon a woman needs to make those difficult decisions about her health. And the idea being that if we imposed a law against that ability to make those choices, we would be defining limitless freedom. And if you define limitless freedom no longer limitless, that's a bad thing. Because now a woman could not choose certain things about her health, which denies them that capacity and forces them into subjection. Once they're pregnant, now they're less free, less able, less dignified. And since we want to empower women, we have to give them that ability of total freedom over their future. The fact that they get pregnant is an unfortunate mishap. It's kind of like, well, you know, it doesn't happen by accident, you know. It's okay, but like, I guess the stork came in or something strange. I don't know what happened. So, and in any case, though, once you are pregnant, then you have to have a limitless freedom. Okay, now the thing about that is that, wait a second, doesn't that enslave someone? And the reason why it becomes enslaving, have you guys ever read the book, The Catcher in the Rye? J.D. Salinger. Okay, you've read it. Beautiful image of limitless freedom. The guy ends up going crazy in the book.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly trying to stay out of the box. Out of the box. And so he defines himself by his weirdness, and he isolates himself from everyone else. And this is a paradox really just worth pondering, because when you hear that, it sounds wonderful. But I want you to remember the first pain of hell. Because if our society goal is to never be bound to anything, boundlessness is actually bound to nothing, which means it goes nowhere. Because then you could ask, well, what is it that what's the point of America? What's the purpose of our actions? Purpose of our actions is whatever you want it to be. That means we're purposeless. Because, wow. And then in a country where everybody's defining for themselves what they want the end goal to be, how are we going to stay together? Don't we have a common purpose? So you could probably think that thinkers are out there saying, well, the common purpose is for us to create a society where each one can find his own purpose. The thing is that that's not going to work. Because when you say, I want to make my purpose is to stand for the dignity of human life, I'm now flying in the face of the purpose of many other people. And so I'm going to be stomped on. And my hospitals and schools are going to be closed because a dictator of freedom is now in office. And the only people that aren't free are the ones that say, you know, what is the point of our freedom? So, for John Paul II, he's like, this is not an answer. But Vince's definition is what almost everyone will say. So I really want you to get this well into your mind. What's the problem with this saying? An undefined end goal creates a limitless freedom, which itself is enslaving to itself. As soon as something becomes limitless, it becomes God. The other option, this one that Bree brought up, is amazing because it seems to be a contradiction. Freedom that isn't totally free. And the purpose, what's beautiful about this, is that this freedom, which isn't totally free, is actually free because of its end goal. Almost like freedom is caused not, or you could almost put like freedom is an effect, not a cause. It is a cause, so let's make that better. Freedom is an effect, then a cause. Once you found and decided that you were going to go to SJI, you made that decision, you became free. Because now all of a sudden, you're doing what you want. So these two things are amazing. This ability to do what you want to do, you could flip on its head. When you're talking with people and they're getting all flippant with you, you could be like, they're like, it's the ability to do whatever I want to do. Well, you could say, absolutely. So, do you want to do the right thing? The first step is, I want a good. Therefore, I am free to go for it. Third point, not going for it hurts my freedom, i.e. doing what's wrong.
What about if the people arguing you, their number one point is, I don't want to do it good?
Yeah, it's impossible. Everything that you do because I think it's good.
You think it'll benefit you in some way, therefore that's their idea of good, even though they know it's
So you should put, I want to do something I think is good. A good I perceive.
It might not be an ultimate good, it might be a selfish good, quote unquote.
Okay. So it's what they perceive as good.
So that's what's cool about what you said about dieting, right? So like, if I want to take a diet, if I want to lose weight, and that's my good, now I have a freedom, but I can't do this and this and this and this because I have to hit that goal. Because the freedom is in effect, there is something to be achieved, now I'm going for it, and that brings limitations. If your freedom is limitless, it will destroy itself. Sound interesting? Okay, glad we could make those points. So this is great when you're with teenagers. And, because you could say, yeah, the ability to do what you want to do, that means that there has to be something you want to do before it's the ability to do it. The ability to do what I want to do implies that there's first something to do, and then the ability to do it. So if I want to do something that's good, I have to start with something that is good. Oh, that implies limits to get to it.
So like, how would you lay that out for abortion? That 1, 2, 3 step thing there, and how it destroys itself?
I would say,
Because you want to do it good because you want to...
I want to free my body from being pregnant. And therefore my freedom comes in my ability to do it. But since that's not a real good, my going for it will hurt me. Once there's something more than the freedom, when there's an object, there comes objective standards. This is why I love the mountains so much. If you want to get warm, do jumping jacks. There's no other way.
Mixers.
You're the mixer.
If you want to die, do a mixer.
Oh my gosh, that was really crazy. Because if you don't do the mixer, you will freeze. No, I don't want it to be that way. I'm sorry. It's like you're going to live or you're going to die. It's that objectivity that's so nice. Because that's the objectivity of our life. Okay, so cool. So these two competing visions, I'm glad we flushed them out right away. These are notions of freedom. Now it's very interesting. I'm just going to give you a little teaser here. Is that this one is found in art, and this one is found in ethics.
Can
Yes.
you not use the double?
So why don't we just throw it away? Huh?
Well, it's like bright. It's just like you can't
It's
see
worthless.
it with the light.
It's worthless. It's gone. I don't have time to keep stressing myself out about markers that don't work. If they don't work, we throw them away. Okay. So, that being put out there. Now, let's go ahead and analyze, where do these things come from? Both of them have their roots in activity. So, what we find in common is that freedom is a question of action. How do I live? How do I act? How do I live? Interestingly enough, when we look at it, we find that those two notions are found deep inside our actions. We looked at our two actions and we said fundamentally there's a distinction between agere and facere. And agere, that would be what kind of actions? Bree? Some interaction here.
Ethical. That's not.
Do not do that. Like I didn't hear you.
No, I didn't.
Her brain needs to form those vital links, the neural connections. It is what kind?
Ethical.
And what does that mean? Don't tell her.
Choosing good, moral, good.
And what does that mean? Give me an example.
Like choosing.
Where in your life do you engage in moral / ethical / agere activities? In your day, what do you do?
Like choosing to get up and go to morning prayer.
Nice job. Very good. Okay. And give me another example.
To do a good for another.
Good. Okay, you got it. Facere means what? So this would be, if I was going to put this in its infinitive, it would be to.
To do.
Good. Facere would be.
To create.
Good.
Make. Produce.
Blah, blah, blah. An example of facere would be, don't tell her, Regina.
Making an art.
Gosh.
I wasn't.
Art / work. Okay. You were leaning in. You had that look in your eyes. Okay.
Thinking it through and mouthing it in my head.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, see, I was reading your thoughts. Okay, very good. So, in these two things, these two types of activities, if freedom has to do with action, action can be divided into agere and facere. And, you could actually divide it even further into political activity, too, which is a blend between the two. We're not going to get there. Agere and facere. Then, what does freedom look like in agere? Well, we know that it has to do with actions. So that's the question we're going to solve. What does freedom look like in agere? What does freedom look like in facere? We know it has to do with actions. Okay, so when do I act? Well, in agere, give me the 7 points of agere. Fred.
Moral intention.
Yep. Before that came Bree, I heard that. You guys are ridiculous.
First love.
Dang it. He's not going to get in trouble for not knowing. Okay? Everyone's going to be okay. First love, then
Choice.
think. Intention, priorities. What comes next?
The options or choices.
Which is called
Versus choice.
deliberation.
Okay. Counsel.
Thank you. And then you make your
Imperium. Action.
choice,
Yeah.
which is executed by a
Imperium.
nice,
How many is that?
and that leads you to
Your interaction with your subject.
Which leads you to, thank you.
Yeah.
Good job. I know you know it. You flow in this one to the next. So freedom's going to come. Are you free in your first love? No, it just kind of happens. What is first love, Regina?
It's like the moment, like that inspires you. It's like first.
It's the moment. You own it. You never let it go. It inspires you. Keep talking. It's not exactly it, but first love. Thought anything walks in the room, and you do a judgment instantly in your heart of whether he is or
Good or bad.
good, bad, good for you, bad for you. Yep.
It's
Good word to memorize with first love is co-natural. Does he fit with me? Are we vibing? Are we picking up good vibrations? That's what the first love. So it's not romantic love. It's not, oh, that I knew, love at first sight. It's first love, meaning there's a type of I think in philosophy you could almost say a type of melting that happens here, a liquefaction. That's actually, believe it or not, that's part of the steps of love. Liquefaxio. It's a little fun thing for when you're at Dairy Queen. Liquefaxio.
Why Dairy Queen?
You go up to Dairy Queen and this Dairy Queen Daisy's behind the counter. You're like, man, she's so cute. How am I going to get her to pay attention to me? Just be like, hey.
Liquefacio.
When I saw you for the first time, my heart liquefied. Liquefaxio in Latin. Facere, fac. Oh, isn't that cool? To make liquid. To liquefy. To melt. So there's a type of melting in a person that just is like, I have space for you. And it happens subconsciously. You're not aware of it. You could be aware of it if you think about it, like, yeah, but you're not aware of it, it just happens. And intention is where that connaturality starts to become real. Here, what's the key word?
Prioritize.
Yes. Nice job, Bree. Excellent. There's a priority. You become a number 1, 2, or 3. There's an order that's established in my activity. This is the famous, you're at a dance, and there's 6 different girls. Which one am I going to dance with? That one, number 1, then number 2, then number 4. Because it's not even like a mean type of judgmental thing. It's just like a type of instinct. And as you dance, you're like, you know what? You're more important to me than 4-H. Am I going to do 4-H and we're going to go out with you? So like, is it going to be the sows or going to be Sue? Which one's it going to be? You're like, it's going to be the sows. And then she knows where she stands. And that's oftentimes a heartbreak. Because she's like, you mean between me and the pigs, it's going to be the pigs? It's really hard, isn't it? But that's, if you're honest with yourself, you're like, yeah. And that means the relationship dies. Well, because you don't have the intention of making the relationship any more than a platonic thing. So it's actually really healthy. You know, what we do when we get in trouble is where this intention is you kind of lie about it. So you act like she's so important. You know, oh, I'm gonna think you're so important. You know, I'm gonna dress up. I'm gonna buy you dinner, and but it's just a platonic relationship. Well, that's not what you told her. All those things, you getting dressed up, you buying dinner, unless it was defined ahead of time, what you're saying is, I have an intention towards you. My life is starting to mold around you. My money is going to you. My time is going to you. My way of dressing is going to you. Then you start using words that denote that your life has been liquefied in front of her. You know, you call her charming. You call her wonderful. Then you grab her by the hand. Whoa, now this is really something because now even my bodily space is being defined by you. And then you say, I've got to go because my 4-H, my pigs need to be fed. And she says, wait, my dad just died. And you're like, I know, but like I can't deal with your dad dying. My pigs need to be fed. And your little heart breaks. And it was because what you did here, your intention, your actions didn't betray the true intention. But when you truly have a true intention, there's an order. But this remains on the inside. You then need to think, how am I going to live that out? So I've decided she's more important than my pigs. So, or let's go to the other example. Your pigs are more important than her. You choose your sows and Sue, and their sows come first and then Sue. But Sue's still important to me. I like Sue. We're going to be friends. But just like, I'm not marrying Sue. I'm marrying my sows. So.
This isn't life experience for you, is it?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Just making this stuff up. All right, so what do? You deliberate. And you think about it. You're like, well, therefore I should take her dancing and walk under the moonlight and talk about having kids. And that wouldn't be good because I've got my sows and she's going to think I'm going to marry her instead of my pigs. So instead, I invite her to a pig washing where she can get to know my pigs with me. So there's many ways on this intention. I have many options. I can walk, I can do a moonlit stroll. I can do a pig washing competition. Or I could, send her pictures of my pigs for her to rate. That's called flirting.
Oh my goodness.
Total flirtation. Hey, why don't you tell me which ones you think are cutest? Here's all of them. What do you think? Flirt. And then you're sitting there being like, I have this intention, and look at all these different things I could do. I don't know what's the right one. So I'm going to ask Father Nathan, what do you think I should do? Father Nathan's going to give me advice, and then I'm going to take his advice, I'm going to make a choice. We're doing the pig washing competition. Because she is important to me, but she's just a friend. So I want to bring her into my world of what's the most important. So we're going to do the washing. But I'm just so nervous because, it's kind of embarrassing. What does she want to watch? What she doesn't want to watch my pigs? Oh, I'm so scared. Okay, so there's this other thing here. So all of this has been inside, interior. And girls, like I told you in class, what happens in a man's interior does not matter. Does not matter. Do not say he has a good heart. That is just not the point. That's interior. He's got to pass through the door that makes him a man. That doorway is the imperium, the commandment, which in Latin is... Yes. This. Nice. Do this. Just do it. It's literally just do it. It's a commandment where you're like, and then you just have to go, I'm in. And at that moment, that's the doorway, he passes into action. Girls, this is where you can judge a man. What does he do? All right, so in this idea, where does freedom come in? It's kind of cool, isn't it?
In the intention?
Yes, it starts intention, right? So freedom's going to have its root in the intention. It's going to start. Because there you start to want something, right? What else has to be there for you to be free?
An end goal.
Yep. So here you could say it's maybe actually the root. And here maybe you could say is the stem. So you have an end. There's Susie, and I really want to be your friend. So I'm going to make an action towards her. Now I need freedom.
Choices.
I think freedom and ethics is in the link between the action and the choice. The flower of freedom, so to speak, where you see its full effect. Susie exists. I really want to be with her. And I'm able to choose the way to be with her and act on that choice. If any of those four things weren't there, you wouldn't be free. Right, Susie's not there. You don't have anyone to be friends with. You're not able to make an intention. Some people aren't able to do this. You're never free. You're just going to end up being a bachelor forever. You're never going to have any friends because you're just a dud. You're like a potato chip. You're just sitting there. Chip in the field. And there's a lot of guys today that are duds. It's really bizarre. You're like, is she important? Yeah. Is your Nintendo important? Yeah. Is your car important? Yeah. And you're like, where are you going with your life? And they're just like, yeah.